Good morning, everybody. What's happening today? I'm Dalton. This is Armstead Farms, and we are going to get set up to haul a little bit of liquid manure today. We got rain coming for the next 8 to 10 days. So I want to try to get some out first, but that's going to involve, here, I'll show you what it's going to involve. I got to get the grain cart unhooked off the 8200 because that's got to go on the manure pump. So I'll have to pull the drill out because I want to unhook the grain cart behind the drill, because once we get our sweet corn picked, I want to drill where the sweet corn is before I unhook this. Also, I think we're going to do a couple little food plots out by our hunting stands. So I'm going to pull this out. We will get the grain cart unhooked and get under motion here. Actually took a little longer than it usually does to start up. We'll climb up on here and see the damage of how much sand's in this thing. Well, there's definitely sand in there. There's probably I don't know, 1.5 feet, 2 foot in the bottom of the front compartment here. So because this truck's a rear unload and it loads in the middle, from the middle back basically always stays clean and starts to build up in the front, works its way back. So it's kind of usually an angle. That front compartment's always the deepest, but there's still plenty in there. You could tell when you're driving it and it's empty how heavy it is. So, oh well, it's gonna work for today because it's gonna rain, so we're gonna hammer down. Tell you what, it feels good to have all that corn under plastic though. You see it is juicing a little bit. That last field was definitely on the greener side, but definitely wasn't worth waiting to get it done, so hell yeah. All right, we are under motion. We are letting it fly. We are stinking up the town. And by town, I mean whatever, yeah, not really the town. But either way, spreading that corn ground, getting it out. Gonna do these short rows down here on this big flat, just because they're generally really wet. Right now, it's really dry. So I'm gonna get in here and get this done real thick and see where the day brings us from there. Generally save the big flat for winter spreading, emergency spreading, stuff like that, just because it is a 100-acre flat piece of ground with no water near it. So it's good to have that as an emergency for winter. But these short rows, like I said, in the winter time we tend to rut it up. So while it's dry, I'm gonna get them done. So yep. Gotta clean that mirror for sure. Triticale's up across the road though. That was the first field I drilled over there, so that's kind of cool to see that looking so good. I tell you what, guys, this is ripe manure. Like, wow. I should burn it a little bit. It was empty, beginning of corn, and we really haven't gotten any rain since then. When you don't get rain, to put a little bit of water in that manure, it's like fresh out of the cow's stuff. Woo! The neighbors are gonna love this stuff. Maybe depending on how much time we'll get, someone could bring down the disc and try to work it in a little bit, because I mean it's some ripe stuff. So, oh well, that also means it's really nutritious stuff for the ground. So I suppose glass half full, right? Glass half full always. All right, guys. Hey, I decided, why don't we take a minute and let's talk manure. All right, let's talk manure. Why we use manure, how we make decisions based on manure, all of that. So let's talk manure. So, first question, why do we use manure? So, manure is loaded with nutrients. Farmers, dairy farmers in particular, hog farmers, and chicken, I guess any livestock farmers, take great pride in being the ultimate recycler. So, we grow a crop, we put a crop into a cow. Cow makes milk. Cow also will make beef eventually. A cow makes manure. Urine, poop, mix it together, you got liquid slurry. Take the manure back out to the field. The field's full of nutrients. You put the nutrients back into the soil, which then grows the next crop. It's a big circle. It's a full cycle. Now, having said that, it does eliminate the use of chemical fertilizers to a certain extent. We still use chemical fertilizers at this farm. We do not produce enough manure. In fact, most dairies, cattle farms don't produce enough manure to offset all of the crops that they're pulling back off. So, in other words, we need more nutrients to grow the crops than what we're able to make. However, it's still a massive savings. If it weren't for manure, we'd be spending 3-4 times as much on fertilizer. So it's a massive fertilizing cost savings there. Certain manures, so twice a year we test our manure, we take samples of it. So we know how much nitrogen, phosphorus, organic matter, ammonia, all of that kind of stuff is in the manure. So our crop consultants can then make decisions, which I will show you, on how much manure we should put on each acre. They also take soil samples of every field. They grid sample every field every year, so we can tell how much nutrients the soil needs to have put back into it. Most of our ground can handle a lot of manure. We double crop a lot, So by double cropping, I mean we'll grow triticale through the winter, harvest that in the spring, take the triticale off, you know, we'll then plow the stubble under, plant corn into that, and we'll take the corn off in the fall. So we're growing 2 crops. Those 2 crops take a lot of food. So by doing that, we're able to really put down a lot of manure on our ground. It's also why I would like to eventually be able to put cover crops on every acre. That was another, I had that conversation in one of my previous videos. If you didn't catch it, go back and watch one of the 10 videos that I made of drilling. I would like to eventually have cover crops on every acre. That's part of it. It allows us to put more manure down per acre. So let me show you the book that our crop consulting team makes for us. This is just an example. So every year, our Western New York Crop Management gives us a book. Now this is last year's book. We'll be getting our new ones next week. So it's still records, you know, these records are all still good. But what it does is it tells you your field name, how many acres, what the crop that was growing on it with, and then it, you know, tells you this kind of stuff. So like allowed gallons per acre is 20,000 gallons to the acre, which I will split apply in the spring and in the fall. And then it tells me never surface apply more than 8,000 to the acre, never inject more than 15,000 to the acre at one time. What I'm doing right here is probably 5,000 to 6,000. I wish I could spread it heavier, but I can't. I don't have a low enough gear in the truck. So yeah, they give you this book. They will also, so for winter spreading, they'll like use caution. Most of them are use cautions. Like up here, some of them say no, some of them say yes. So these are fields, like this field would be one that would say yes. Because it's so big and so flat, the runoff risk is much, much lower. Where certain fields, like say that hay field over there that's on a hillside, that would probably be a no for winter spreading. Why is winter spreading different than summer spreading? Winter spreading is different than summer spreading because, one, the ground's probably at least partially frozen. It's frowned upon to spread on frozen ground because of runoff. Now, on a dairy farm, in New York State, you're still legally allowed to spread in the wintertime, so most dairies still spread when it's frozen because you're not leaving ruts, you're not compacting as much, you're able to get onto the fields, etc., etc., etc. However, frozen ground or snow, what happens with snow? Snow melts, turns into water, washes off the field. What does that water carry with it? It takes that nutrients from the manure off of the field into waterways, which is not, we can't do that. That's, as dairy farmers, it is our job not to allow our manure into the water. Which is why we have this book to help guide us. Now, having said that, we've worked the ground long enough. I've pretty well got this book up here. Super smart guy, you know. Anyways, yeah. So like I know like this field would be an okay one, that one over there would not be okay in the winter. So that's part of the planning. Now let me show you something else. I don't mind all my gibberish. This is last year's numbers and crops and stuff that we had on them. But okay, so these are the outlines of our field maps. These are basically the boundaries of our fields, how many acres. So these red spots here, those are setbacks. Setbacks are spots that we cannot spread. So this blue dot here is a creek. They don't want you spreading within 50 feet of the creek if you're surface applying. Now, if you're injecting the manure, you can go 20 feet from the creek because the risk of erosion and all of that is obviously decreased. But we primarily surface apply, so 50 feet from all ditches. This spot right here, that means never spread. Never, ever. The W, that's well. Yeah, you don't want to, you never want to get anywhere near those spots because those are people's well. So on the other side of this cemetery right here, there's a house, which is, you know, that's why the field indents right here. There's a house right there, and that is their well. So that is a never spread. I'm currently setting right here, and I will get out and show you what I did. So even though this map you know, it gives you the outlines. Sometimes you need to make a responsible decision as a farmer. I will show you that decision. Okay, guys, so you can see I'm starting down there and I'm coming. Now you can see this area right here that I left. That is a dip that flows down there into the road. The road has a culvert pipe that goes into the swamp. So even though they don't have this technically marked off, I know that with my manure, especially as watery it is right now, we'll do this. It tends to find its way down the hill. That's how gravity works. But I know by leaving that much open area, this manure is not going to find its way across the road. Even if we got a pouring rain, this manure, I left enough space in that whole area. Plus there's a 30-foot vegetative strip at the bottom. So we leave a spot down there that's just, you know, natural growth, weeds, stuff like that. By some chance it finds its way there. That should help filter it out. So, for those of you guys who are not farmers, when I say surface apply, we're taking the truck and we are literally just spreading it on top of the ground. The difference between this and injecting or incorporating. If you are injecting or incorporating manure, there's primarily around here, it's a disc opener. So it's a disc that cuts a slot in the ground. Behind that, there's a tube. The manure flows out of your tanker down that tube and into that slot that you cut in the dirt. Behind that, there's generally two closing discs that are angled in that kind of flick the dirt up on top of the manure. So all of the manure that you injected will be left in these strips, generally 15 or 30, well, I don't know if there's 15-inch, yeah, I guess Bazooka makes a 15-inch spacing. You know, anyways, 15 to 30 inches wide rows, the manure will be injected instead of just covering. Again, by covering it like that, you're eliminating the odor, you're eliminating runoff, not completely, but 90% more than surface applying. You're eliminating that. You're also holding the nutrient value in the soil better. What's going to happen with this is a lot of these nutrients are going to dissolve. It's unfortunate, but that's how it works. It gets into, it's gone. It's not captured by the soil. So now you're probably saying, well, Dalton, if there's all of these benefits, why aren't you guys doing it? We would love to. It's very, very expensive to do. We have priced out an injection system for our spreader now 3 years in a row. It's not our next purchase, but it's definitely something we've really been looking into and would really like to do. You're talking upwards of $70,000 for the injection system for the back of our tanker. Then you got wear parts. Every, 80 to 100 acres, you're putting new points on. If it's discs, you're putting new discs on probably once a year. But again, you're talking, with the amount of manure we move, $5,000 to $6,000 a year in that. Now, there's there's cost savings by those nutrients being in the soil. Again, it's something we really want to do. We just haven't got there. Also, in regards to the manure, it's not all rosy with manure. Literally, not all rosy. That was no pun intended, although you can intend it if you'd like. Yeah, it definitely doesn't smell rosy. So even though it has a ton of nutrients in it, and it's really, really good for the soil, there are downfalls to it. The biggest one being the cost to move it. On a dairy farm, on average, the highest expense of any dairy farm is feed. The feed cost to feed the cows is basically always, that's a landslide number one. The number two most popular, highest expense on a dairy farm is the cost to move manure. It takes a lot of fuel. It's very expensive equipment. It takes a lot of time. There are more efficient ways of moving it than trucks and tractors. There's dragline systems where you pump the manure through a hose to an applicator that, again, you can either surface apply or inject it on the applicator, but you're pumping it through a hose. So you're saving your travel time up and down the road. It's a less carbon footprint, all of that kind of stuff. Again, very, very appealing. That's literally $1 million system. I'm sure you can get a system for less than that. We have sand manure. Very thick, very hard to pump through a hose, so you need big equipment to do that. It also wears stuff out significantly faster. So the draglines, you know, again, you're talking, just for a rough number, say $1 million for a system big enough to do what we would need to do here. The other downside is compaction. If you don't have those kind of tools, this truck right here compacts the hell out of the dirt. Its wheels are narrow, and when this thing is loaded, we're pushing 100,000 pounds. That's a ton of weight to be traveling across the surface. Now, again, perfect world, I would be tending a spreader. The spreader has much wider flotation tires, so there's less pounds per square inch going onto the soil, so there's less compaction. We are shorthanded this weekend, period. That's why I'm doing this by myself. It's been a long few weeks. Guys deserve deserve some time off, so they're gonna be taking it, and that's not a big deal at all. So we are moving it with a truck. That's why I'm moving it with a truck. I understand the downside to it. I have always been the guy that's, hey, if the weather's nice and the conditions are right, get manure moved. Don't wait for everything to be perfect. Get the manure moved when you have the opportunity, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. But anyways, I hope that kind of describes something. I hope I was able to put it in the terms people are able to understand who are not farmers as to why we do what we do, and we're not just randomly dumping manure into a field. There is a very specific scientific reason we are doing what we are doing. So anyways, I've now farted around for probably 10-15 minutes. I need to get back to work, but I just wanted to take the time to stop and show you guys that stuff. So, all right, so another thing that I can explain quickly in regards to manure and the nutrients involved in it, every farm has different manure, but it's not just manure. So let me show you our lagoon here. So this is our old lagoon. Those of you guys who follow me know we got a new lagoon coming. So over here, there's a pipe. This is where all the manure from our big barn comes in. It's pumped under the road and comes into here. Up here, you'll see a blue pipe. That blue pipe is for all of the wash water for our parlor. So we do not have septic systems on the majority of big dairies. There's no septic system. So all of our wash water, that needs to go somewhere. So that also comes in and gets mixed in with the manure and then distributed over the ground. Essentially, it's probably better for you than a septic system, which is why they do it. Also, over here, there's a pipe that comes in. So all of the rainwater that comes off of the bunk gets collected and goes into here. Now, why do you got to do that, Dolan? That's a lot of water. Millions of gallons, actually. That's got to be expensive. Yes, it is expensive. However, a lot of that is not just rainwater. The primary reason for it is bunk juice. What's bunk juice? So, like that corn that we put in is 35% dry matter, which means it is 65% moisture. So as that feed cooks, it'll shrink down, packs in tighter, and it'll juice. So you'll get some moisture that comes out of the front. That's similar to manure. It's got nutrient value in it. It's got, I don't even know, nitrogen, ammonia, stuff like that in it that you don't want getting into the waterways or into the water system at all. So we collect it into here, goes in with the manure, gets stirred in, and goes out to the fields. So I'm telling you it's not just straight manure that we're spreading. It's wash water, it's rainwater. Everything on this farm has a place, and there's a reason for it being where it is. It's as environmentally friendly as we can possibly be at this stage of the dairy. Now, as you grow, there's even tighter and tighter restrictions, but we are currently in a large CAFO, which means the rules and regulations that apply to us are the same as if we were to milk 10,000 cows. Where the rules and regulations get less is if you milk less than 699 cows. The rules get a little looser there. And then again, if you get below 299 cows, then most of these rules don't apply to them at all. So, yeah, which I don't necessarily think is right, but it is what it is. So again, just wanted to explain that. see there, what I'm doing is I'm putting my tires right on the edge of the last spread. I've got a 60-foot spread pattern. So by doing that, I'm able to spread over to the middle of that row, and I'm basically essentially overlapping and spreading everything twice. Because it's such a wide spread pattern, and I want to try to get it on as close to that 8,000 mark as I can. Like I said, I am unable to though. Right down in Granny Low. Just walking the dog here, but just not able to get on heavy enough, so I'm overlapping. But you can see it's a pretty solid shot. Now over there along the road where I started, it is already starting to dry up. So I'm not worried about this stuff going anywhere. See the farm over there, so I'm not going terribly far. Some of you are probably wondering why I don't use our tractor and noon tanker and just tank it over here. It's too sharp of a turn on the road. On a hill, I don't dare take that loaded with 9,000 gallons. I'm sure it could. I don't trust it on a 9320, and I do not want to have to drive across the field every load to get here, because again, that's a long way across. It might not look like it, but we're a mile from the farm here. So I don't want to have to drive a mile across this field every load, because even though that spreader's got a bigger set of tires on it with more flotation, repeatedly going on the same tracks, you're going to make a road just as hard as the truck. Alright guys, the last thing I want to say about manure, being courteous to the neighbors. We never spread on Sundays. Most people are home on Sundays. We don't need the neighbors smelling that. At least on the weekend when we know everybody's home. 2, we generally confirm with the neighbors before we spread a field. Hey, you guys don't have any parties coming up. You know, there's not a birthday party, a graduation party, something like that going on. Because the last thing you want is 100 people at your neighbor's house just completely gassed out by the smell of your manure. That's not a good look for the farm, the industry, anything like that. So confirming with the neighbors that it is okay to spread, even if it's something as simple as, hey, we're spreading, make sure your windows are shut, you know, just keep that smell out. And all of our neighbors are very, very good. Now, having said that, we do have neighbors that generally say, hey, we do not want you spreading right by the house. And 99% of the time, we fully respect that. The one occasion where it's like, hey, this field is lacking nutrients, we need to get some manure on. 1, we let them know, we talk to them about it so they're well aware. 2, we always have the plow right behind the spreader. So as soon as that hits the ground, it's getting worked right in to eliminate that smell and, you know, runoff, anything like that. Just make it as seamless as possible for that neighbor. I don't know, it's just something that we do. Being courteous to the neighbors is very important. It's just very important. So that's all I'll have to say about that. But that's pretty much all I got to say about manure. That's all. Just that little bit that I said for the last 10 minutes. But anyways, guys, we're gonna go ahead and end the video here. It's 4:30, so I'll probably rock on for another hour or so. But it is Friday night. I think we're gonna go and maybe we'll take the kids to get some pumpkins and stop and get some ice cream. The ice cream shop's shutting down this weekend for the season, even though it's so warm. October, you know, once October's here, they shut down. So we gotta go make sure we hit up the ice cream shop. Ice cream made from milk, support your dairy farmers. Everyone go buy all the ice cream you possibly can this weekend. Just, who doesn't love a good ice cream cone? Anyways, rambling. I hope you guys got something from this video. Share it out. If any of your neighbors are curious about manure, if you're a dairy farmer and you're asked about it, hey, send them this video. If you're not a dairy farmer and you were at all curious, I hope you got something. Feel free to comment questions. We'll be sure to address them because this is Very important. I feel like the dairy farmers, any farmers, pig farmers, chicken farmers, whatever, we really need to advocate for ourselves in regards to manure management, land management, things along those lines. So again, hope you guys got something from this video. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll see you guys in the next one.